Well, 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 check this out. Raspberry cardamom cider, just a perfect balance of fresh raspberry aroma and flavor, paired beautifully with some nice floral cardamom. This was a really fun experiment, and this journey was certainly worth the effort, so come along for the ride. Hey now, it is cider brewing day, and I'm really excited to try a new experiment. I've had some really good success with the ciders and the recipes I've played around with in the past, and today we're going to be making a raspberry cardamom cider. Now, I've got the brew stand kind of set up here. Well, at least my boil kettle only. This is the only vessel that I'm going to need here because I'm just heating up the juice so that we can pasteurize it and then chill it down and get into some carboys here. But let's take a look at our juice. I'm going to start off here with a bunch of this cold pressed juice that I picked up here. We're just going to get this into the vessel. Whew. I can see that this bottle's been sitting for a little while. I'm happy not to kick up all that extra stuff into solution. So we'll just run all of those out like that. So I just over 25 liters of that other juice. I'm going to now start adding some of my awesome crabapple juice that I made with my steam juicer. We'll get some of this in here. So I've got 11 liters of the crabapple juice in there, and I'm still short of where I want to be volume-wise, so I'm going to start adding just some more apple juice. I'm now having some nasty flashbacks to the last cider I made, having to deal with all of these 200 milliliter juice boxes. However, I'm going to start filling it up. I wound up adding a dozen of those 200 ml juice boxes there. So now we have a total of 40 liters in here, which is what I was shooting for as a total volume. It's also giving me a gravity of around 1044. I was reading right around 10.9 bricks with my refractometer. So I'm going to get this heating up here now, and we'll see where we wind up. I have all the juice heating up here now. I actually have this over on my boil kettle burner because it's a larger burner and it's going to get it heated up quicker. I'm going to slide this over to my mash tun burner once we get up right tight to the temperature that I want to have this steeping at, and then that way I can actually just control it with my brew stand here. Now, this is a step that a person could avoid if you simply sanitized those containers really nicely and you just dump them into a sanitized carboy. That's all good. The reason that I do this is because I sort of like to keep an eye on what the gravity is, especially when I'm using different juices together, because I have certain ranges of ABV that I'm shooting for with these brews here. So that's why I'm doing that, because that way I can play around with it and then I can just pasteurize it, know everything's good, and then get it into my carboy. So we have the cider up at that 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit range. We're just going to hold it here for about 90 minutes, probably a bit longer than it needs in order to pasteurize, but we will do that now. Just keeping that lid on. After that 90 minutes hanging out at that temperature here, we are ready to slide this over a little bit just so that I can run everything through my plate chiller. Here we are running off through that plate chiller and into the carboys. Again, this part of the process isn't super necessary unless you want to sort of play around with the juice the way that I did and potentially adjust the gravity and whatnot. Not that I really expected any differently, but reading below the meniscus here, we see that we've got 1044 as an original gravity for this cider. All right, down here in the brewery, we have the carboys set up. They're on temperature controllers and heat wraps, and we have them set up here now at 70 and 71 Fahrenheit. I'm heating up towards 75, which is where I would like to begin fermentation. But first thing I need to do is get some pectic enzyme in there. So I did boil some filtered water here. I added pectic enzyme as per the manufacturer's instructions, which is a half teaspoon per gallon. And I actually have enough in here for both of these two carboys. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that now. I'm just going to have to eyeball it. And I'm adding this pectic enzyme here just to hopefully result in a clearer finished product, just to break down some of those pectins and allow it to clarify a little bit nicer. So at this point, I'm going to let these sit overnight here. I'm just going to leave them capped like this. I'm going to let that pectic enzyme do its thing. And I'm not adding yeast until tomorrow just because that can somewhat interfere with that process. So we're just going to leave them like that for now. The next morning here, we are ready to pitch the yeast. I've actually taken these already and I just aerated them just by rocking them on a bit of an angle here for approximately a minute. I let that foam die down, which is pretty quick because there aren't a whole lot of proteins or anything like that in solution to help maintain that head. I've star sat everything here. and I rehydrated my yeast, and what I've got here is 150 mils of water with some Mangrove Jack M02 cider yeast, and that's going to go one of these packs worth into each of these carboys. And I do have the carboys here at 75 degrees Fahrenheit still, and this is where we are going to conduct the majority of fermentation at that temperature. And now we've got the temperature controllers with the probes in thermal wells going through those carboy hoods as well as blow-off hoses here, and we are ready for fermentation to take place. The next day we've been happily fermenting away here for quite a few hours. Very exciting. So we're wanting a big raspberry addition in this cider here. I've got 5 pounds of raspberries in here. These were raspberries that we picked and then they were frozen. What I wound up doing here is just pulling them from the freezer, getting into this vacuum bag. We got them nice and hot at 150 degrees Fahrenheit in the precision cooker water bath. Just like this here, this is my second bag of these because we're going to have 5 pounds going into each of the carboys. Now, while these were probably safe to add just as is, first of all, I wanted to get them closer up to the fermentation temperature here when I actually go to add them, but also by heat processing them there, kind of gently at that 150, we did render a lot of the actual juice out of them here too, which is hopefully going to get just a little bit of a head start on that raspberry kick in the cider. So I've let all these raspberries cool down to my fermentation temperature, and it is now time to get them into the cider. So I've got everything all sanitized here with Star San sanitizer. Woo. That includes the outside of these bags, the funnel, scissors, and this wooden spoon that I'm about to use to get the rest of these raspberries into the carboy here. I'm going to take a little bit of poking and prodding to get this done, but this is a process I've used before and it definitely works. And the same for carboy number 2. Just replace our temperature probes here and allow fermentation to resume. This is some very, very raspberry cider going on here. Wow, the color definitely changed. Got way redder. And it smells like raspberries in this basement right now. I should also mention that I took a reading with my refractometer of the raspberry juice, and that came in at 1042. After fermentation wrapped up, I disconnected the heat from these carboys here and allowed, as you can see, a lot of that yeast just to drop out of solution. It's really quite clear in there. It's got this beautiful red color. I'm really, really excited about this. Right now I am pressure racking these out of the carboys into a couple of corny kegs, and on that stainless steel racking cane there I do have one of these here just to hopefully prevent some of those raspberries from getting picked up as they are in the bottom here, just because if they do wind up running through that line I'm going to have some clogging issues right at the keg post there, which I would like to avoid. So I'm just going to transfer both of these now. Once I have these in those corny kegs, I'm going to chill them down further, gelatin fine them, then transfer into carbonation kegs. And I have videos for all of those processes in the brewing playlist on the channel. Reading below the meniscus on this cider after the fermentation with the raspberries, we're coming in at 1004 as a finishing gravity. At this point, I want to play around with the cardamom addition for this cider. In this bowl here, I've got 30 grams of cardamom pods. I'm just going to add them to this giant mortar and pestle that I've got, just to crack them open a little bit here. And those pods I'm going to add to a 500 ml or 1 pint mason jar. I'm going to have 2 of these set up here, so I'm going to add another 30 grams. I'll repeat. Now, for this infusion process, I don't want to dilute the raspberry or the cider character of the beverage, so when I was pressure racking, I did reserve, this is just over a liter or a quart of this cider, and I'm going to be adding it to these jars. Since I'm not sure how much I'm going to wind up needing, I will have both of these filled right up. And that way, if I wind up needing this much liquid in one of the carboys, I'm able to do that, and I'll have enough for both of them. For this infusion process, I'm going to use a hot water bath here and my new char meter precision cooker. I have this set at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to take these mason jars with the cider and just place them inside the hot water bath. I'm going to give them at least 2 hours here, during which time that cardamom character should get totally infused into the cider. After 2 hours, I pulled the jars out of the precision cooker hot water bath and let them cool down a little bit just so I can easily handle them right now. What I need to do here is strain them so I can separate those cardamom pods and anything that was within them. As you can see, there's definitely some stuff that came out of those pods. I need to separate that from the cider. So in order to do that, I'm going to be actually pouring everything back into this original jar just to make that easier because this is a narrow mouth one. I've got a canning funnel, I've got a little metal sieve here, and then I'm going to quadruple wrap some cheesecloth. Lots of cardamom going on in there. And I'm just going to pour these through, straining all of that out. So I have the cider strained. One thing that I do notice here is that it has gone more opaque than it was before, even though the color hasn't really changed too much. I just rinsed out these jars a little bit here, just to make sure that there was nothing left of the cardamom pods. Just going to get them nice and even here. And now I'm going to get the lids back on nice and tight. The issue here now is that these are not sanitary anymore, so I'm going to get them back into the water bath, give them another couple of hours here, and that will pasteurize these, and then we'll be able to dose them as we see fit. So back in the hot water bath we go. After 2.5 hours at that 150 Fahrenheit pasteurizing, I'm going to pull these out and let them cool down. Now, full disclosure, this is a couple months later. I actually already dealt with that first keg. It was for a buddy of mine. He came over the one day and we started to dose out of one of these jars here. You can see how much we wound up adding to the keg until we hit the point where we were really happy with the character that we got it all carbonated up, delicious. He took it home. I think it's already gone. I'm now ready to put this on tap for myself here. So it's time for me to do mine. Because I was happy with that, I'm going to take my jar and essentially get basically the same amount out of here into my keg and we'll be good to go. I have my keg here. This has been sanitized with Star San. Push that in and out. It's ready to receive the clarified cider. Let us first of all dose. Just pop some of that pressure. We're going to dose with our cardamom infusion. Pop this out. And I'm going to pour some in and just compare it to my other jar. They're very comparable. Perfect. Going to get this back on here. Now, because I have introduced some oxygen to the situation here, I'm just going to purge that out. Woo! Smells like cardamom. It was a really efficient way of getting cardamom into this cider. Perfect. Pop the rest of that. And now we are pressure transferring. Once we had that cider dosed with the raspberry cardamom extract, it was time to get it carbonated up. Again, I have a video on that in the brewing playlist on the channel if you'd like to see how I forced carbonate in my kegs. But now, as always, perhaps the most exciting part for me, maybe not for you, but for me, it's the tasting. So let's do it. It is an absolute joy to have this cider on tap here. This is great. This is smelling incredibly delicious. But you know what? Let's take this outside. I mean, it's an all right day out here. Not the nicest day. It's really quite windy. I think there's some sort of wildfire action going on somewhere. We got a little bit of smoke. But either way, I wanted to come outside here with this gorgeous little cider and have a taste out here. Oh, but first a whiff. Now that is really something special. It's got a real fresh raspberry character to it. It's got that just sort of, you know, tart raspberry, almost kind of sour character going on, and then definitely some of that floral cardamom in there, but just in perfect balance. Nothing overwhelming the other. And it's more of the same in the flavor, but just intensified. It really tastes like I've taken just a mittful of really tart raspberries and popped them in my mouth. Incredibly fresh tasting. But then it's got that cardamom again in there, that real floral character, balanced just perfectly with it. It makes for an incredibly fresh, tart, and then with that dry finish, just incredibly refreshing beverage. Oh man. Okay, so I'm not saying that this has to be a summer beverage because I can see this being an awesome cider for any time of year, but I'm really happy that I do have this going here for the summer. It's going to be a massive hit and probably won't last that long. So I highly recommend that you give this a try if you're able to, and if you do, please let me know how it turns out for you and if you made any tweaks to it. But either way, till next time, keep your ciders and your experiments at 11.